This is Arrowflinger Al bringing you yet another Arrowflinger report.
All right, you have the floor. State your name and your address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Al Gray of 2573 Salem Church Road in Lincolnton, Georgia.
Okay.
And folks, this is a prop that I took. Commissioner Smith has probably seen it. It's a bucket for the Augusta SPLOST. It's got some holes in it, a lot of holes in it. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of the commission, for allowing me to speak today. This holy bucket, made up as a prop for one of your SPLOST meetings, now I'm getting confused, is stunningly perfect as a depiction of Augusta's sales tax program. Properly designed, your liquidity slowly meters out the one hole in the bottom, but the way this one is, liquidity spurts out all over the place, leaving the tree to wither. Augusta's been to the well too often with a bucket like this, and this might be the final trip before the well runs dry. When you have a $12 million parking deck funded with sales tax built on land you did not own, that's a pretty big hole. When you have $2 million of sales tax funded kitchen equipment you were never supposed to pay for, exchanged for land that was supposed to be donated, that's a doubly big hole. When those sales taxes build a facility that drained the general fund to the tune of $200,000 to $250,000 a year for things to pay for such things as staff that were free under another agreement, that hole becomes a gaping maw. When you use sales tax to fund a municipal building and don't use the right contracting methods, $20 million doubles to $40 million, which I believe it's done, on the way to $65 million. When you don't recapture what contractors owe you, you lose $750,000 on your sewer treatment plant contract, close to $150,000 on a substation building, untold millions on a convention center. These are the big holes. The money lost from the myriad small ones may be greater because Augusta doesn't even have a sales tax program control manual built into its sales tax management contract. The liquidity coming in from SPLOST, which has been shouted to heavens in timely initiatives designed to promote the SPLOST vote, isn't there and it won't be there. For instance, past SPLOST made streams of interest income that have been evaporated and further diminished by the use of high cost or inefficient banks, as Columbia County may be learning today. People get excited about lining up with the holes in your new SPLOST too. The Marriott folks want $1 million skywalk, we see. Before giving them the money, which a former commission approved, wouldn't it be prudent to see if there are offsetting charges from Augusta back to the Marriott? The Augusta citizens whom I was helping 2 years ago looked into several areas potentially offsetting that $1 million, but were stonewalled by the former administrator. Most of those centered on the conference center contract that was extended. The biggest hole of them all is the chasm where the truth should be. When the, quote, news media, unquote, is so embedded in the subject of a story as the Chronicle was with the convention center management, even their closest allies lose. Poor Rick Allen, the T-Center contractor, believed what he read in the daily newspaper and became so unwitting that there were loose ends that he accepted $7,000 in campaign donations from Marriott management. I somehow think that's going to come back to haunt him. I kind of miss that the mayor wasn't here today because he has issued several challenges to me regarding my credentials. I don't have any credentials. I've got your records and his records, which I try to bring to you to make points. And it's been very gratifying to see that the commissioners have moved to meet me part way, or the citizens actually part way in making some reforms. So it's been a very gratifying process over the last 30 months. But I just feel like with a news media that's this biased, maybe I should be asking them their credentials instead of my credentials being put forth as he put for their examination. Augusta has another year to take time to fix all the holes in SPLOST while the city and region rests with the burgeoning T-SPLOST, TIA 2010 debacle, which centers in Augusta too. I'd have to say this. I come before you as a very sinful man. I have no hope of salvation except for the books are found in the books of Romans and Ephesians. And now while we're talking about sin, it looks like to me what we're doing here will be, if this SPLOST is passed, you'll be covering up the sins of the past with sins of the future. Take the time, fix the holes. There may not be many buckets left in your pot of money.
Understand. The problem, and I appreciate you doing pro bono, you and Brad Owens working with Corey Johnson, Joe Jackson, Joe Bowles, and myself on the T-Center contract. It was very informative. It actually saved the taxpayers hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and I thank you for that. This body here was pre-warned about spending money we don't have.
Commissioner Donnie Smith.
Mr. Gray, the $65 million that you spoke of, that was a figure you just made up, isn't it?
Out of experience from a lot of years.
No, my question is...
I did make it up.
You made it up?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a good bit of your stuff that I think you just make up, and that's an example of one. This body is elected to do the business of the government, and we take the information that we get, and we make the best decisions we can, and then we have to sit here and live with them, and we have to take criticism from people that portray themselves as a professional without any credentials. So I'm offended by that $65 million remark that you tried to mislead the people in this room, because that has never been a figure that this board agreed on about this building.
You didn't agree to $40 million either, did you?
The scope of the work.
Did you agree to $40 million before it got there?
Hold on.
We changed the scope
Donnie,
of
you
this
have the floor.
project. We changed the scope of this project. And that's how it got to $40 million. But I just am offended that you will use fictitious information to try to mislead the people in this room to say that this is going to cost $65 million. Thank you.
When someone is filled with venomous rage, they tend not to hear what is said. In this case, please watch and listen to the segment of question and answer immediately before Commissioner Donnie Smith's reprehensible diatribe.
You had said it went from $20 million, $40 million. You mentioned the word 65 million, the number $65 million. Where did that come from?
Well, when you start on an old building and you don't have a defined scope of work,
Right.
what you end up with is risk-based premiums built into all your costs, and you keep getting change order because there's no definitive scope of work. You don't know exactly what you're going to run into, and you run into all kinds of things that's not on any drawings anywhere, and it just, the projects like that just tend to be disasters. I mean, and you're in midstream with this one, so there's no telling where you might end up with it.
Next, you get to observe the reaction of Commissioner Bill Lockett, who demonstrated that he was listening to that discourse with keen interest because he almost perfectly recited it back to Commissioner Smith.
I'm offended by the comments from my colleague. We have a guest here that is attempting to serve the public, and I think what he indicated was there isn't a firm $65 million figure, but based on his experience, it makes sense to me, and I'm not in the contracting business, I'm not an engineer. If you go into a building such as this, you can have projected costs, but then all of a sudden you tear out a wall or you tear out a floor, and then all of a sudden it skyrockets. But what he's saying, based on past experience, it could conceivably cost us $65 million. Maybe it won't. I hope it won't. But I don't think he said it's definitely going to cost us $65 million. And we always talk about the way we treat people. Please, a little respect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gray, for your comments here today.
When this effort began 30 months ago, it began 5 years beyond the capability of any hostile party to seek retribution against an employer, client, or reference. Exhaustive case studies are found on both the agraynation.com and costrecoveryworks.com sites. On this site are numerous videos, articles, and publications documenting the achievements of these past 30 months. The media in Augusta, Georgia have an agenda which works against the citizens there, and this old Arrowflinger isn't going to put innocent bystanders in their way. The manipulators' own words, deeds, and documents are their real obstacles. Those will be brought up in bountiful quantities. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and this has been Arrowflinger Reports on agraynation.com. Today's camouflage pattern is Real Tree Advantage Timber.